Welcome to Broadway Drumming 101. My guest today is Augusto Oropeza.
Yes, sir.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm relaxed.
You
I'm
are
home.
the drummer of the show. Where's my poster over here? There we go. That
There it
show,
is.
I can't even do it right.
There it is.
He's on the second national tour of Ain't Too Proud, The Life and Times of the Temptations, which is currently coming to a town near you. And you've been doing it for how long? When did you start it?
We started in September. We started rehearsing in about August, and then we premiered in Chicago in September of last year.
How
Okay.
did you get this particular gig?
So it came out of nowhere. I audited the Ain't Too Proud book on my birthday of year before last. So in 2023. And when I saw Zach play that book, I was like, man, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. But I wanted to see Zach play this book because I was just in love with the music of the Temptations in general. But watching this show live captivated me so much. So after I audited the book, I kept auditing more books, started becoming more and more serious about wanting to take a tour out, wanting to do this professionally. And I saw in about, I think it was around April of that year that I saw somewhere on social media where there was a non-union version of Ain't Too Proud going out. So I reached out to Zach. I said, hey, do you know who I would be able to contact about throwing my name in the ring? And he gave me some contacts. I reached out to them, and it was Courtney over at Worklight. So I communicated with her. She asked for some video submissions. I sent those in, and then it just progressed until I got the gig.
So did you have to, I'm curious, what songs did you have to submit to them in order to be considered? Let me guess. Cloud Nine.
Yep.
Of course. What's the name of the first song on the second act? Can't Get Next to You.
Yep.
And The Way You Do the Things You Do.
Yep.
Is there
That's
one
it.
more that I'm missing?
I could build my whole world around you.
Hmm.
I could build my
Okay.
whole world around you. Yeah. But it was those exact songs. The further I got along into the audition process, the first time it was just send us a video submission of yourself. And I communicated a lot with Zach Albetta because he was someone that I kept constant communication with after I audited his book. So through his guidance, I came up with my own way of showing my versatility with that music in particular. So I did Aretha Franklin's Rocksteady. I did Get
Now we're
Ready from the
talking.
Show, and I did the Isley Brothers. So I sent that submission in, and a couple months later, they said, okay, we want to see these three songs. And it was just the first couple of measures from each one. Then later on, Rick wanted to see these specific measures. So we sent in those specific measures. I'm assuming everybody else was the same. At least for me, it was we want to see measure one, two, I think it was 11 or something. Then later on, it's the dance break part in Cloud Nine, and then in the way you do things you do is just further on into the song. And then in Can't Get Next to You, it's the percussion break that doom. We met with Rick himself over Zoom, and it was a Zoom call, and we played a little bit with him. And then I got an offer letter. It was in June of that year.
Mm.
So it was from April to June, a whole process. But it was just
Wow.
reaching out to Zach, being like, hey, I know you're probably not going to take this out, but do you know who I could reach out to that would be able to let me know?
That's great.
And then gone from there.
Being a little assertive and being prepared and being able to do this kind of stuff. That's why you're where you are. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Where did you grow up and what got you started playing drums in the first place?
So I grew up in this little tiny town of China Grove, North Carolina. It's about 30 minutes outside of Charlotte. But I always had an interest in music growing up. I always had a rhythm, though. I would always get in trouble in school for tapping on the desks because I always had a beat in my head going, and I would just had to, I couldn't vocalize it and I couldn't put it on a drum set, so I would just tap it out with my hands. So I got enrolled into orchestra in school, and I started out on the trombone. But there was something at home that I was just always coming back to, just watching the drummers. When I would watch whatever videos I was watching on YouTube about other bands, it was always watching the drummer. And then I figured out who Vinny Caliuta was and Bernard Purdy. I convinced my parents to get me a drum set, and they did. And I just taught myself how to play the drum set because I wasn't able to explore that in middle school. I was always in the wind ensemble. I was doing trombone or a wind instrument. There wasn't enough space for a percussionist. So I just taught myself how to play at home. So then by the time I got to high school, we had a band director. His name was Javon Primus, and he was a drummer from the Navy band. And he was a very versatile musician. He would play the trumpet, but then he would throw down on the drum set. And he really instilled in us a real music theory education. It wasn't more of, okay, gospel chops are cool. Yes, it's fun to try to do all that stuff, but do you know what you're putting down? If I play a beat, can you write it down on a piece of paper? So all of my music education started really in high school and really started focusing on the drums. At this point, it's when I started to discover what musical theater was. I discovered what Cirque du Soleil was. And that's what really ignited it for me. When I saw those drummers and those percussionists playing, I was like, that's what excites me. I would never turn down a gig to play with someone like Bruno Mars or Lady Gaga, but the goal for me was Cirque du Soleil. I wanted to do a performance like that. There was something about that performance. Went to a bunch of other Cirque shows all throughout high school, started to dabble into musical theater as to what it really was, but it was a very surface level of, oh, everybody knows what Wicked and Phantom of the Opera is. That was about all I really got into. But it wasn't until after I graduated high school where I really started to get into musical theater, mainly because I wasn't able to go to school for music. So I had to go to school for IT. I was able to get a big boy job, and I'm able to spend money in a way that I would like to. So I'm able to go to a bunch of all these Broadway shows. And I'm like, dang, I really like this. Because Cirque du Soleil doesn't come by North Carolina that often. So concerts are cool and everything, but I really wanted to go to a performance. So I figured out what musical theater was, and I just started going to a bunch of shows, and I figured out that I really enjoyed the storytelling aspect of musical theater, but the music, I started to figure out who composers like Stephen Sondheim were and really fall in love with their work and their orchestrations, their music. But it's been a journey since I was a little kid. I was always into music and I wanted to do something with live performance with drums. And it's just what led me here.
I was out in Vegas in February, the place we'll be moving to. When we were
Yeah.
out there, I saw a couple of Cirque shows and I met two drummers that play on a couple of shows. First of all, it's just spectacular visuals, and the stuff that they do is just, I don't know if you've seen Kai yet in Las
Mhm.
Vegas. Have you been to Las Vegas and seen any of the Cirque shows? It's just the visuals and the scenery and the acrobatics. Of course, the music
Yeah.
is amazing. They put on some really cool stuff. And
Yeah.
I see that you have a t-shirt that says,
Yeah.
what is it? Which one is it?
It's a Cirque du Soleil says Echo. It's one of their newer shows. I'm a huge Cirque du Soleil fan because just like you said, Broadway does the same thing too. You're watching a show and it's almost like watching a movie and you just escape into it and you just get drawn into it. That's what I enjoyed. Being a part of that is what I enjoy. Sucking, like getting someone's attention for 2 hours into this visual of a stage and so focused in, and everything else is secondary. That's what I enjoy about musical theater. But that's what got me about Cirque is they're so visual and all of their shows are, it's a visual feast. I like them. They're cool.
Yeah, it's called Ka, not Kai, but it's Ka. And there are these tribes battling, and they have all the. It starts out with the enemy on the sides, and they shoot these arrows into the middle. And one tribe is on a ship, and then they're swinging back and forth, and then they all fall down. And then, I'm sorry, getting tangent.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you, man. That's why I like Cirque, because you get so you're like you're describing this thing and people are like, what? This happened? You're like, yes, man, like they did this. This was real people. Dudes swinging on a cube and projections going on while they're dressed like
Yes.
millions. Like, yes, this is
And
Cirque.
and they
And
have
the
this
music is top notch.
and they have this platform where all the performers are on. It's like level like this, and all of a sudden it goes like that, and they're climbing up on top of it, and there's arrows
Yeah.
that are being shot on it, and they're hanging from it. And I took my son, I saw it once, and I took my son to see it because it was just that it was worth it to me because it was just so stunning. And you can only
Yeah.
get those in certain venues. They don't have them in New York, probably because there's not
No,
a big
no.
enough place.
No, I think Cirque tried to do a Cirque show in New York. It was called Paramore, but it was not on that scale of Ka. I think those theaters are built specifically for those shows because they're so
Yeah.
massive. Yeah.
I did walk in. I was like, my God, these places are big. Most things are big in America outside of New York.
Yeah. Yeah. Those theaters are tiny, man. When I was in the city, I was like, geez, you can see everything. Like, even the last row is an orchestra level at one of the local theaters here in Charlotte because it's huge. The orchestra level is huge. I was like, geez, like, sit back over here.
That's the good thing about now you're on the second national tour, but on the I don't know what you guys how your pay is stipulated, but for the set tours,
Mhm.
you get a certain rate and you get overages. I don't think you guys do you guys get overages at all?
We do.
Oh, you do.
Yeah, we get
Okay,
an
good.
overage. We get an overage.
Okay. And there it depends on where you are and sometimes it could be nothing, sometimes it'd be good. That's good.
Yeah. And the show has to recoup in general. So that takes some time. And then, so it's not like you're getting an overage from opening. The show has to
Yes,
recoup all its
that's right.
investments. And then you reach whatever city. And then from that point, you start getting overages. So, yeah, no, we do get them on this tour, at least with Worklight. I don't know about every other non union gig
Mm,
out there, but at least for this one, we do. Yeah.
okay. That's good. Sorry.
No, it's cool.
I'm just curious. There's a lot of stuff I don't even know about. That's why
Yeah.
I want to interview you because there's some things about touring that I don't know. I did my first tour in the year 2000, and that was a bus and truck tour, but that was 25 years ago. And the last thing I did was just subbing for Hadestown, and that was a really eye-opening experience, and I really enjoyed it. And I didn't mind being on tour. It was cool
Yeah.
until you're out there by yourself. You're not with your family. You're not with your friends. You're with your colleagues. Speaking to a lot of drummers, you're in a drum booth, and that drum booth really isn't even in the pit. It's
Yeah.
just someplace else. You're up there. You're in the booth by yourself, and intermission, you're like you're looking for people, and you got to just find a way to interact with people and be
Yeah.
assertive and just start talking because it could be a lonely experience sometimes. Have you ever felt like that, or how do you deal with those kind of situations where you're just in your drum booth by yourself and you don't have your bandmates next to you?
It hasn't happened too often. The sound design of this show was very much we don't have the live horns, we don't have the live strings, we don't have two percussionists. Let's try to get the
Ah,
drummer in the pit as much as we can so we can have live instrumentation and live sound coming from the pit.
oh wow.
So there's been cities where I look over and there's an audience member right there because my booth is here, the height of it is here, just a little bit is the stage, and there's a seat right there of someone. And they said, we really want the drummer in the pit. There's some
Oh,
cities though where it's okay, he has to be in the pit, like Hershey, Pennsylvania. Any musician that listens to this, drummer that listens to this, that have toured in Hershey, PA, you know that pit is like tiny. You can't fully stand. It's the stage is here, the pit angles down like this, so you have to walk like this in the pit. There's no drum booth fitting in there. Chicago, the where we premiered, there's no drums that fit in there at all. There's no drum booth fitting in there. Maybe a little tiny bebop kit, but that's about it.
in Chicago.
They're tiny, some of these places, but I haven't had to experience it much. But there are those cities where I am remote, and I'm not someone that goes out on the town every day. I believe in the quality, not quantity type of friendships. So I'm more of a reserved person. I'm very sociable, but I'm not a very sociable person. So when I am remote, it does get very lonely on tour. I'll be in the room, I'll chill by myself until it's time to do whatever. I'll get up, I'll go to the show, be by myself. And if I am remote, it's because we're in a venue that's tiny.
Mhm.
So most of the times the band is cut from the finale. So then I don't even get to go out on stage. So there are theaters where we have a blackout curtain that hides the band. Curtain comes down, the band comes on, the band gets revealed. There are certain cities where the theater's ceiling isn't tall enough to hide the blackout, like it would stick out, so they have to cut the band.
Do they do at the end? Does the cast go like this and nobody's there, or
No, they re-choreographed it to where it's like David Ruffin and Al Bryant and whoever else, Damon Harris. They do a reveal thing. The lighting does something to where it blacks them out, and then your focus is over there, and then they do it. But in those cities, my day really is just me by myself because I'm in a drum room by myself, and then I get back to the room and I'm by myself sometimes.
it gets expensive going out too?
It does get expensive, but I don't know, it sounds bad, but you build your clique of people on tour. You don't ostracize other people. It's not like a you can't sit with us kind of vibe, but you build your little clique of people you vibe with. There's people that are more outgoing. They often tend to flock with themselves and they're the outgoing crowd. And there's the quiet people that are more reserved and let's watch this on TV and chill out and pig out on pizza. Cool, let's do that. Those are my vibe kind of people. You have those moments when you're not on stage or whatever, when you're back at the hotel and you find your way with your own people.
I was part of Ain't Too Proud. The show got shut down due to something that happened in 2020. During that time, I decided to figure out what I was going to do with my life. One of the things I did was start Broadway Drumming 101. But at the same time, I was like, I got to find a way to make money. So let me take some courses. So I looked up, I was like, what can I do where I don't have to be in a certain place? I could do something with IT. So I started taking a Coursera course, Google certification on IT, and I got through the first 3 modules. I had 2 more to go. It was interesting at first. I'm not into this stuff. I don't know what the HTML and all this. I learned a lot. I
Yeah.
didn't realize how things actually worked, but I was not really into this. What got you into IT?
I told my sister I wanted to go to music school, and my parents, they told me I couldn't. So I told her this, and she was like, she was working for the government at the time. This was like back in 2012, 2013. She's like, there's this thing called cybersecurity. It's about to blow up. She was like, go get a degree in that. You can make good money probably, and then you can pay for your own music school and do whatever you want. I
Mm.
was like, okay, that's an idea. So I followed her plan and did that. I went to school for IT, got a degree, started putting it to use, but I didn't go back to music school. I started taking lessons with drummers in the area that were involved in the first national tours that came by, the percussionists that would play for the tours that would get contracted. I started taking lessons with those guys and those cats because they were doing what I wanted to exactly do growing up. They had the careers that I wanted. So I just started taking lessons with them. I didn't really go back to school again for music.
Mm. And did you
That's the
stop?
only reason why I got into IT was just to pay for music school.
And did you keep doing it for a while, or did you stop to do this tour?
Yeah. I
Okay.
literally stopped. So I was working at, it's called Ryder Logistics. I don't know if you've ever seen their trucks, but they're about the second largest logistical company in the country. I was getting paid pretty well. I was enjoying myself, but I just did not enjoy ov- the overall work life of having to go to an office sometimes and being at home and just working here. I knew I was a drummer. I knew I wanted to play this music. I knew I wanted to do this. So I gave it all up and I started touring.
And do you look back and say, man, maybe I shouldn't have? Or are you like,
I have lived more these past months on tour than I've done in a long time, man. It's very soul crushing for a musician to have to go and do an office job and have to sit there under lighting and go on a computer and interact with people in a very hi, hello, Catherine. It's the worst to do it year after year. And then to go to so many shows, I took advantage of it. I said, if they're going to pay me money, I'm going to go do whatever I want to do. So I went and saw a bunch of shows, and I was like, I can't keep watching these shows because I want to play them. So it got to a point where I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going after that.
Good, man. That's
Yeah.
good. Inspiring me. I'm just kidding.
Listen,
No,
everybody's on their own journey and path, and wherever that may lead you is where it leads you, but do it with confidence and do it with love.
there you go. I used to work at a day job when I first moved here. And of course, I moved here to be a rock star and play music for a living. And I had to work a day job because it was expensive back then in '93. And it's even more expensive now. The whole
Mm.
side hustle or day gig or survival gig, whatever people call it, I called it a day job back then. I actually had a day job working at a bank and working at JP Morgan and clearinghouse of brokerage firms and wearing the suit and tie. And like you said, you realize at a certain point in time, I said to myself, I didn't come here to work a day job and to wear a suit and tie and be clean shaven. And so I said, I quit. It was
Yeah.
1998 and I grew my hair out and I had dreadlocks, believe it or not, all the way down to my.
Heck yeah, man.
And I said, I'm not doing this. And 2 years later, that's when I got the bus and truck tour of Footloose and then Tick Tick Boom and everything else fell into place.
Heck
I totally understand your story, man. It is soul crushing, and you have to find your way to do what you want to do. Just find a way to make it happen, and you're doing it.
yeah, it's been an absolute privilege. I've had the most fun, and it's been very soul fulfilling to be on this tour.
So I know you didn't see the show in New York, but you saw Zach play the show and you saw his setup. Do you have the same setup, or did you add anything else, like any percussion?
No, it's the same exact setup minus one cymbal. He had one extra cymbal, an extra crash that I've always been a two crash and a ride kind of guy. That's what just felt comfortable. That's what when I was practicing the book at home, played on a two crash and ride setup. That's the only difference. But the shells are the same, hardware is the same, you know, same kit.
What's one thing that you learned from this tour that you didn't expect?
There's a lot.
Musically, professionally, personally?
I learned how to let a lot of stuff go. I came from that IT world, so everything was like, no, you have to do this. This person can't do this. And it was very much regimented. And it's very much regimented here on the road. There's stuff that you just cannot do and stuff that won't fly, but you have to be okay with it is what it is. Okay. And truly being okay with, okay, it is what it is. There's a certain freeing feeling that you get when something crappy is happening. You're like, okay, whatever. And then you see other people just having a full crash out over it, and you're like, just chill out. You're fine. It's okay. Sit back, relax. You're fine. And you're like, chill out. You're like, this does suck. You're absolutely right. But the hell am I going to do? I'm going to be mad all day? No, you're crazy. And being on the road, you have to be okay with okay, it is what it is. And you can't let it ruin your day because there's going to be too many situations that go on that are going to go against your favor. But you just have to be okay. All right, here we go. The day starts.
So you've heard the cast album, seen Zach play the show and the original songs. How much of yourself and new things have you been able to put into the book? Did you try to make it more interesting and more towards you, or did you try to keep it more towards what you've heard before?
A little bit of 50-50. So the way I approach the book is a combination. I think because I'm the last person to do it, I feel in a way I want to culminate everyone's versions of how everyone did it. So what the records are doing, what Otis is doing now with his band live right now, what you did, what Zach did, what Q did. And then there's also things too that I've added that we have to have for our show. So there's little moments where there would be automation. Now we have people. So let's make it a little bit more interesting and add a hi-hat groove during this vamp that usually just used to be a straight 2 and 4, but now let's give it a little bit of a backbeat. There's a little bit of some cymbal rolls that I add in between in and out of vamps to make it a little bit more, when the curtains are moving on the stage and stuff like that, it makes it more thematic and all of this stuff. There's stuff that I've added where the magic that was being done by automation, I'm adding to a little bit. The other part of the book, I do a combination of what everybody has done and what really caught my ear out of everyone's version of doing their book.
If someone reaches out to you and they say, I want to be a drummer on a tour of a Broadway show, what would you recommend that they do?
It's a myriad of things. You have to be able to network with individuals and make connections with people, real human connections, to where you're able to have the relationship to ask, hey, do you know who would be able to help me out with this? Or do you know who's taking this tour out? You have to be able to have those skills down, but you also have to be realistic with yourself. If you put yourselves up for an opportunity, you have to be able to play it. That comes with being prepared with whatever genre. You don't want to limit yourself and only play jukebox musicals. You want to be able to play original works, so you have to be able to play Latin music. You have to be able to play whatever is asked of you with musical theater. We cover so many genres of music. Being able to authentically play those musical genres is, I think, a key to this. But also just be a genuine good cat to play with. You have to have those skills. It can't be something that you're actively working on. You have to just be a general good person to play with.
When I did the Hadestown tour, we were there for week-long stays, and we traveled on Monday. Sometimes I would go and set up Monday night, but setting up Tuesday, having the sound check, playing that night. Tell me what a typical week is like for you on this tour. I know that you're not necessarily doing all 1 week sit downs, but there are times where you're doing shorter stays.
Yeah.
Tell me what a typical week may be like when it's a shorter stay.
A typical week is what we call a split week. So we do about 2 to 3 cities in 1 week.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
God.
what we'll do is we'll travel into a city on a Monday, play that city Tuesday, load out that Tuesday. Wednesday, we'll travel into a city, play on Thursday, load out Thursday. Then we have a 5-show weekend in a city. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we do 1 show on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. So that's a 3-city week.
Wow.
Sometimes we luck out and we do Tuesday, Wednesday, travel on a Thursday. Thursday's a golden day. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have a 5-show weekend. Most of the times you can count on there being a 5-show weekend.
Wow.
And then
I'm tired just listening to you.
Yeah. Sometimes we say they're just a week, and it's the most relaxing thing ever.
I'm
But
sure.
typically it's a split week where we'll do about 3 cities a week.
And you're traveling on a coach bus together.
Sometimes by air if they're further away, the locations.
Wow.
We flew a lot in the first leg of the tour. Like every single stop was an airport run. Every single one.
Even the split week ones.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. It was intense. We were like, oh, this is, yeah.
That's
it was
a lot of flying.
Yeah, it was a lot.
And you have to set up your stuff in the pit and break it down.
I just break down. I'm lucky enough to have a props department on tour with us that was with me since the rehearsal process. They were there. So when they came out on the road, they set up my kit for me. They spiked the kit in the rehearsal studio with how exactly I wanted to set up. So by the time we got on the road, we had the rug packed, it was unpacked, and all my spikes were there. So it's been the same ever since.
Sets up you have to tweak it, of course, but is it
A little
mostly?
bit, yeah.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah. And then Sometimes I luck out, and if we're in a pit that's tiny and my road cases aren't in the pit, I just have to break down the drums and then just lay them out. The locals will come and pack it all up. But if the road cases are in the pit, I'll put them in the road cases and then peace out.
Mm, man, maybe I did that 25 years ago when I was young enough to not really care. I didn't really think anything about it because it was, first of all, you're traveling across the United States. You get
Yeah.
to see the United States for what it is. And I don't know, is this your first tour seeing the entire country?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite city so far?
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Really?
Man, I love Fort Wayne, Indiana. It sounds so strange, but at Fort Wayne, Indiana, we were like in a part of tour where I was feeling extremely homesick. I was like, I want to go home and snuggle with my dog. And it was like really bad weather. Everything was super cold. And we get to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and it's perfect weather. And right across the street, I love hot dogs. Backstory: I love hot dogs, love them. And right across the street from the hotel, there's this little tiny mom and pop diner. And they have these dollar hot dogs that they put chili on. It's the most amazing thing you've ever had. And the dude is from North Carolina. And everybody in that town is like Mr. Rogers' relative. They are all so nice and so polite. I love Fort Wayne, Indiana. I love the people there. It's been my favorite.
What's the name of the diner? So I can look it up.
Coney Island.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, best place
Well,
ever.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to ask you, how do you stay healthy and maintain your stamina?
It's hard, man. It's hard. So with our schedule, it's extremely hard. When you get off of work and you're working in the city, you have the ability to have your food at home, travel in hotel rooms, sometimes on a bus, sometimes airplane. We don't have the luxury of keeping stuff in fridges or whatever. So a lot of times we have to DoorDash. By the time you get done with a show at 11 o'clock, it's only going to be fast food that's open. So you get fast food on DoorDash night after night.
Oh,
Now, here's the thing though. I am slacking because there are healthy people on tour and there is a way to maintain all of this. I'm not looked at on stage that often, so I'm good. I don't get outwinded in the booth.
okay.
I'm good, but it's hard to. It's easier to live a healthy lifestyle when you're at home and you have the amenities of having everything around you. But when you have to DoorDash and Instacart everything, and then you start getting organic food and everything, it can get pretty expensive, especially and sometimes we go into big markets. Sometimes we go into tiny little places like Fort Wayne, Indiana, but then sometimes we go to San Francisco and you're paying high dollar for everything. So it's a challenge. It's doable. Don't let me fool you. It's doable. It's just not something that's
Not high on
good.
your priority.
I don't want to
So
lie.
you're playing 8 shows a week most of the time and playing the same thing, same way. How have you avoided drumming injuries, or have you had succumbed to them at all?
No, before I went out on the road, Zach warned me about drum injuries and he gave me tips on how to approach doing 8 shows a week and how to do it correctly and in a healthy way to where you walk away with your body and you're able to tour again. So I do go through a physical like warm up before each show. I don't just roll up and say, all right, let's go. I physically stretch. I get down on the floor and I stretch. Even on a 2 show day, even once I played a show already, I'll still come in. I'll do the same warm up routine. And that allows me some consistency. I'm like, okay, I know what everything's supposed to feel like. Nothing feels strained. When I'm doing my actual warming up, sometimes I'll feel like I'm tensing up and it'll hurt in my hands. I'm like, all right, I got to stop. But yeah, so I do go through like a physical warm up, but that's about it. I haven't had any kind of injuries. I've gone through PT. We do get PT on tour.
Okay.
And they work wonders. The people that come on PT, they know exactly what to target and exactly what to push on. And you walk out of there just feeling like a new person.
Mhm.
They give you exercises too to do on your downtime, and it's great. So yeah.
So do you find yourself getting to the hotel and heading right to the gym, or you're like, no, I'm going upstairs and going to sleep? Do you get to, When you get
So
to the hotel,
I get post-show jitters, so I'm like a little kid. I'll get excited. I'm like, where are we going, guys? What are we doing? I don't know if we're going to bed. And I'm like, no. There are some people that we like to just sit around and collectively we'll get like a 6-pack of beers and we'll share a pack of beers and just talk about whatever. We'll chill in somebody's room in the hotel lobby, outside if it's nice. And that kind of allows me to unwind. So what I do like to do though is get back and just lay down flat on the floor.
on
I'll
your
just
back,
lay down flat. Yeah.
and what does
Because I
that
like to
do?
try to maintain some kind of good posture when I play in
Interesting.
the booth. And keeping that engaged is a lot after an 8-show week and you're like, oh God,
Mm.
I'm gonna sit with bad posture.
So what does the lying on your back do? It just tell me what it does.
It just feels better. There's I feel like it's so unnatural the way and I should probably go in for a lesson to where I focus on just my posture playing. I've never truly felt comfortable playing. To me, it's unnatural for us the way we do things, how we hit the drums, how we move our feet, how we have to use the hat clutch. It's not natural to make our bodies do that. So when you do it 8 times a week for a while now, and you have to sit up like that. And again, sometimes we're seen in the pit. People can look into the booth and see me, and I don't want to be slouching.
Mm.
But laying back and just letting everything just relax is what makes me feel good when I lay down. Flame.
Do you lay down?
I'll just sit there and scroll and just let everything just shut down. I'm like, all right, I'm relaxed.
I need to do that.
Yeah. I feel like after everything's tensed up, I'm like, all right, I'm ready. If anything happens, we're good. So it just feels good to just let everything just relax and chill out.
Tell me about this Echo show. I don't know anything about it. This Echo show.
It was crazy. We saw it in Virginia, in DC.
Okay.
I forget what the show was really about, but they had a lot of projections. They had live band. I don't know, man. Cirque's kind of not what it used to be. I guess everything is after COVID. Nothing is really what it used to be. But yeah, they had a lot of projections. I'm a big like musical theater technical. I'll go and look at the set design for hours. That stuff interests me.
So I haven't seen the Ain't Too Proud tours, but a lot of it isn't automated, obviously, because you can't build a whole stage. But have you did? I'm sure they still have the grill when they do the scene where.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's not a
What?
lot of automation that we have. The first national, I think they had the big M, the Motown M.
Okay.
Johnny May had her Cadillac.
Yeah. What's up with the Cadillac?
It's a Cadillac.
What really?
Yeah.
I guess they
You
can't
can see
bring
the
that down.
headlight of a Cadillac. It's nice. It's cool.
So what is she doing? How's that work?
She does this whole choreography around the guys, and she has this thing with money. It's cool. The way they reworked it with the projections and the sound design, it's cool. It works really well.
Close are you to New York on this tour? Any other shows that are close?
I think we're going to be in Buffalo.
Damn.
Yeah, the closest we were was New Brunswick.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's close.
New
Where are you
Brunswick was fun.
at the State Theater?
Yeah, that place was tiny.
Really?
That was a city where I was remote.
Wow. You said you were into Vinny Caliuta.
Yeah.
I can't remember the other drummer that you mentioned. Who were some of the other influences that you had growing up?
Bunch. I had Jonathan Moffett was a big one. I was in love with MJ, but I loved Jonathan Moffett, the way he played, how tight his snare drum was. His groove just was. Really enjoyed him. Really enjoyed Steve Gadd, Dave Weckl, all of those guys, Vinny, Bernard Purdy. Sheila E is I really enjoy Sheila E. Karen Carpenter, I don't know.
Oh, really? She's
I know
great.
that's not a drummer that a lot of people say, but I really enjoyed how Karen Carpenter played. She was able to sing and play and yeah, she was a vibe. I really enjoyed her. Those were like the guys that I really looked up to a lot.
Have you ever seen the Jacksons in 1981? And that was the blueprint for a lot of the things that Michael Jackson did after that, from them doing the Victory Tour to him in the Bad Tour and the Dangerous Tour. It's all the same kind of thing. But Jonathan Moffett blew my mind back then because I used to listen to and play the Jacksons live album. And I know that thing like the back of my hand. And he's such a great drummer, and he was playing with them for such a long time. I don't know if you ever got a chance to see, I guess maybe you have didn't get a chance to see Michael Jackson live. I don't know. You're probably too young. He probably died in 2009.
Michael died in June 25th, 2009, I'm pretty sure.
Damn.
Yeah. No, I never
Dates.
got to see him live. But when Cirque du Soleil came out with the Michael Jackson tour, I was like, we got to get tickets today. Jonathan Moffett is the drummer. I was like, we got to get tickets today. So I
You
saw
saw it?
him live
Okay.
through Cirque du Soleil. And funny enough, we were in Riverside and we made plans to meet up in Riverside, California. And he was going to come see the show, take pictures, but he had personal stuff that came up. He wasn't able to come out. I was this close, man. I was this close to being my hero.
Damn.
But yeah, he's a killer of a drummer. The way he approaches drums is a lot how I approach drums. And he approaches drums in a melodic way. Instead of, okay, how many beats can I get in this measure? It's okay, how many voices can I get in this? How can I make this voice? What are the drums going to do sonically to the song? How is it going to
Mm.
drive the song sonically? So yeah, I really enjoyed the way he approached that and just his tuning method, the way he can make drum sounds, the way his snare drum always has that really tight piccolo snare sound. And yeah, really
What kind
admire.
of snare are you using for the show?
I'm using a Ludwig Superlight.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was on tour. I think we were in Florida somewhere, and I had a snare that came from the warehouse, and you could tell the snare had probably been sitting somewhere for a little bit. So I tried to clean it up a little bit. It just wasn't working. And one of the tuning lugs just gave out. It popped right in the middle. This was right after sound check. So I get the company manager's card, run over to Guitar Center, and I see a Supra. I saw a Supraphonic, but I was like, no, I will get fired if I end up coming back with a Supraphonic. That's it. But I saw a Superlight. I was like, that could work. So I got that one.
Do you think they would have fired you because it cost so much for a superphonic?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I would have been gone the next day. That's it.
Are your drums Ludwig too?
No, the rest of the kit's a Pearl kit. Q had that kit put in the tour back when he was playing on it. It's
Okay.
a Pearl pure reference kit. So that's what the rest of the shells are. And then I have that Ludwig snare.
And what kind of cymbals do you have? Okay.
I have HHXs, and then I have a HHX complex ride. It's a 20-inch,
Okay.
AX 19-inch crash, an 18-inch HHX thin crash, an
Mm.
18-inch ozone, and then I have the HHX big cup hi-hats.
They have the big bell on them.
They're not abnormal. It's just a 15-inch plate. Those plates I went with because they're exactly the ones that Zach had on the kit when I heard them. The only difference is the ride cymbal. That ride cymbal is the one that Q's got on the Hamilton tour right now. He recommended it. So that's the only difference is just the ride and the crash. But all of it is the same exact ones that Zach had on the first national tour.
Have you had any situations where you've gotten someplace and things have fallen apart? And what kind of ways have you managed to, how have you gotten around those situations if that has happened to you?
Yeah, it just recently happened. So the first snare that we got from the warehouse, it wasn't the best of snares. You could tell it had been sitting for a while. But we had planned to switch it out when we were in a South Carolina city when we were closer to the depot. It just didn't work out. So I switched over to that Superlight. All of the heads that I use are 2-ply heads, so they're resistant. I'm not having to change heads so often. So all that's taken care of. All the hardware that I use on the kit is the original hardware that came with the actual drum kit itself. So it's, I don't know if it's top of the line Pearl kit because I'm not a Pearl player. So I didn't really know much about that kit itself, but it's really sturdy hardware. Just recently though, I broke a snare head And man, it was stressful because it broke at the like third number. We were, I
Mm.
think, shout, and it just gave out. And it held a little bit of tension, and it just sounded like a worship snare for a little bit. It was just very thuddy. I was like, all right, we can get by with this. But when it got by losing you, I was like, okay, there's no tension in this head anymore. Like I can't go on anymore. So I was able to turn it over onto the other side,
Oh,
on the
wow.
snare side. We don't have a backup snare. So on this bus and truck tour, we only tour 3 trucks. So the drum cases that I have is what we have to travel. That's about it. We have an alley snare, but it travels in a hamper. So we can't really put like nice drums in there. They'll get beaten up. So we don't really have space for a spare snare. So we had to wait until intermission. Our company manager went to Guitar Center up the road, got a head, brought it back. By the time intermission came, I swapped the head over and we started act two.
Wow. It's crazy, man.
It was intense. There's challenges you have to work with when you're doing a non-union tour. In all honesty, I've seen other people's non-union routes, and their routes are one-nighters after night, and it is intense. So we're spoiled over at Be Too Proud a little bit.
So the next tour, the next few cities, not few, probably have several.
Yeah.
You're doing this until July,
Yep.
and hopefully something else comes along. Would you ever go back into IT?
No. No.
Under no
Absolutely not.
circumstances.
No,
Not
I'm not.
trying to do that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna starve, but I feel like if I have a backup plan, it's gonna keep me from achieving what I really want to achieve. I want to
Mm.
open national tours. I want to take more shows out on the road. And I feel like if I use IT as a back burner or if I use it as a crutch, I'll lean on it. And IT is something that's a certainty. There will always be a need for IT people. So it's no, I don't want to. I don't want to fall back in those slippery slopes. No,
You
I'm
wind up
good.
falling back on your back, laying down, and not for
Yeah.
good reasons, but for bad.
Yeah, you get a consistent check, you get health insurance, you get a parking space, and you're like, wow, this is nice compared to being a musician on the road. And then you get comfortable, and then you're working at a desk again. No, not me. I don't want to do it, man.
Mm-mm, nope.
Not for me. No, I'll struggle. I'll be hungry on the road having a time, but I'm not going to be at a desk.
You'll be door dashing and all that stuff.
That's right. Indeed, I will.
Oh man, that's great. I'm very happy that you're doing this and keeping the people happy watching this amazing show, which should still be on Broadway. But I'm glad that you're holding down the
Right.
fort on the road. Would you want to do another show that's on tour, or would you want to move to New York to try to play music here? What would be the next step if you had your choice?
I would definitely play a show in the city if the opportunity came. But I really want to tour. I really want to take more shows out. I want to do a first national tour,
Mm.
an equity tour. I really would love to do a golden egg tour, like a Wicked, a Hamilton, one of those where you don't have to continuously be on the hunt for the next gig. Something like that. That's what I'm really after. That's what I want to do.
So you wouldn't come to New York to play jazz gigs and other gigs.
I would on my downtime for sure. In between tours, absolutely. But I don't think I want to make that
Your
my
home.
main way of earning money. I don't wanna have to live that struggle, Clayton. Those city cats, they are hustling to make ends meet. I know
Yep.
it, and that's not a struggle I want to put up with. Being on the road is nice. It has its challenges, it definitely does, but there's a certain level of once you've been at home and you've had to live somewhere for a while and then you get to be on the road, you're like, oh wow, this is nice. I definitely want to take more tours out. I don't want to have to play in the city. No.
I hear you. Maybe wrong, but I think your bass player is trying to move to New York. Is that true?
We are all going to hear of Sajio Mang's name before the next 5 years is over. I promise you that. I don't know what Sachio's plans are other than being the next Jason Robert Brown, but I could see him doing very big things in New York. Wickedly talented guy.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, it's
That's
very
cool.
talented. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad you had time to chat today. Again, thank you for taking time out. I'm glad we connected. Finally got a chance to actually chat with you for a long time and
I
get
know,
to know
man.
you.
Thank you for having me. I've seen so
And
many heavy hitters and big cats come on your podcast, and to be able to have my little sprinkle in it is such an honor and a treat. Thank you so much.
glad to have you on, man. And much success to you. Hopefully, I'll see you in person one day.
Hopefully, man.
All right, man. Have a great
All right,
rest of the
Clayton.
tour, and we'll talk soon.
All right, man. Have a good one.
All right, you too.